Welcome back to Kimchi Rednecks. This is going to be a weird combination of shining in Korea and Chuck's tech debacles because I'm teching up some shine stuff. So I showed before in another video that I had started to get some parts for the Vevor still that I'm using. I got those little 90-degree, I think they're called street elbows, for the thump keg so that I don't have to do like 90-degree bends with the flex hoses. I can just go straight into those. That was the first one. The next one comes courtesy of, I believe it's Still in the Clear, which is another channel run by a dude whose name I believe is Cyrus. Lots of great information on that channel. Check it out if you want recipes or, other information on how to run stuff. But one of the things he highlighted, which I actually believe he said was from one of the forums and he was just highlighting it, he didn't come up with it, was a condenser upgrade. The condenser for the Vevor still is very small, and if you look at it, it only has like 2 or 3 coils in it that are like below the water drain level. In fact, I think the third one's not even completely below it. It kind of comes up because obviously it has to come over the side of the pot for the hose to hook up. So somebody in the forums came up with a plan to upgrade it, and I'm following that plan somewhat. So their plan called for a 5-gallon bucket. I've got a 3-gallon bucket, or technically a 12-liter bucket because that's what I could find at the local store. So we got that. I've got 20 feet of 3/8 OD copper wire there. This tool kit, I will try and remember to put links for all the stuff that I bought off Amazon below, but this is a bending kit. So, you can take your copper wire, slide that over it, and that helps you bend it without crushing it, which is very important because a lot of the stuff you can buy offline is very thin gauge and it's very easy to crush or crimp it if you're using your hands. So use the right tools. These are not all that expensive. To go along with that, there's some stuff that they don't specifically require, or they don't specifically say that you require, but you're going to need. You're going to probably need a pair of pliers of some sort, something to cut said copper with, because you're going to have to get the ends off of the coil that's in the existing condenser. You're going to reuse some parts, so you're going to have to cut that copper to get the stuff off of it. So I've just got a little hand hacksaw here. You're going to need a drill. And where you're going to need drills, you're going to need drill bits. Now, I also have somewhere, I don't have them out here, some little hole saw bits, which I'm going to use for a specific purpose. You drill a hole for the wire to come out of, obviously, because you've got to have your money spout. Normally, you're just going to use some silicone caulking of some sort around it to seal the hole. Because this bucket comes with a lid, have some extra plastic here, I'm going to cut out a little hole or two. I have to figure out exactly how I'm going to do it, out of this lid, and that way I can drill the hole in that little cutout, slide it over the hole or over the hose before I mount it in the bucket, and that way I can put my silicone on that little cutout and then press it against the side of the bucket, let that seal and cure. I can put a lot of caulking on that, make a good seal around that, and then I can also come back and put the sealing on the inside of that little patch cut around the hose, so I have 2 layers of caulking. That's just me trying to make sure I don't leak stuff all over the table or the counter or the sink or whatever. Now, to go along with that, you're going to need some step bits so you can get the right dimensions cut out if you don't have the exact right size drill bits there. For when you get to the point where you need to change over the fittings from the existing condenser onto the wire, there's a copper flaring kit, also from Amazon, link below. You put your hose into the right size thing there, you mount that on it, you squirrel it down, and it flares out the end so that it sits correctly in the, I think it's called a bulkhead fitting or something. It's the 2-piece fitting that goes on the hose. Now that's the stuff that they list in the original video that I watched. Great, fine, dandy, 100%. I have a couple extra things. One, I've got this just because I have this. It's a little vise. I can use to hold stuff while I drill on it, or hole saws. Basically this is just support equipment. What they normally tell you to do is, obviously you have to find something to coil your wire around. that has to fit in the bucket. Now in the bucket, you want the coil as wide as you can get it without getting it too close to the outside of the bucket. So the more coil you have down in here in the water, the better your cooling is going to be in your condenser. However, you're blowing steam through that copper hose, so if you have it too close to the side of the bucket, you have run the danger of softening the bucket and it melting and having stuff run out. So find you something that goes inside. This is not it, but I'm going to use it for the purpose of demonstration. Something that fits in here, the size you want, where you have, I don't know, 1.5 inches, 2 inches from the edge of the bucket. You're going to wrap your coil around that. Now, normally you have to run it so that it comes up out the side of the bucket so that you can run the hose to it. I'm planning on running this right around and then running it straight up so that I can use this big long old copper hose, connect to it that way, and then make it a 90. I've got some adjustability. I can turn it to whatever way I need to join it to the hose from, actually that would go that way, to the hose from the other side. So now Melissa's not going to let me build all this on her kitchen table. I just brought all this out so I could show you everything. I am going to take all this into the recently cleaned guest room and mess that up, just because that's what I do. I mess things up. But I'm going to build this in there. So there's going to be a time lapse. I'm probably going to do this over a couple days, and we will be back when it's done. So see you. Okay, so I got my basic coil done here. Actually, this hops brewing basket that I bought recently, because it's got a nice steel rim on it, and it's the only thing I've got that's roughly about the right size of the inner side of the bucket. So that should put my coil about like that. So as you can tell, I got 2 long bits hanging off here. So this is going to be my top, and what I'm thinking of doing with that is bending it around into the center and then going straight up so that when I put the flange on it, I can pretty much join to anything I need to. Down here on the bottom, I got this long one, which is longer than the width of the bucket, because this is going to be my money spout. So I will find a smaller can or something to bend the radius on this in, probably from here through the center and then out that way. Or if I actually point at the camera that way. Ish. But coil, relatively complete.
3 days later.
I've got my little 3-gallon bucket that I got here. And I have drilled a little pilot hole in the bottom here. I'm gonna save that pilot hole bit, because I'm gonna need it a little bit. And I'm gonna grab this stepping bit. So the copper tubing is 3/8 OD, so I am going to hog that out up to 3/8, and then we're going to see if the tube fits. Well, we've got us a little hole drilled out. Let's see if it fits. Okay, that's what I thought. So the 3/8 is going to be a little too tight, so we are going to change drill bits. There we go. And we're going to take it up 1 notch on this fine one. So that's going to go from 3/8 to 13/32, which if I was smart, I would have got some painter's tape or something to line that off so I would know which one it was. I'm just going to have to eyeball it. It's the 3rd one. I got to stop at the 3rd one. It's the 4th one from the bottom. Theoretically, it should be the first one that hits. All right. All right. So now that does mean that the hole is slightly larger than the copper, which is to be expected, which is why I'm going to make, well, normally you just put some silicone caulking around it, but I'm going to go overkill because overkill is underrated. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab this little hole saw bit
And I'm gonna take this lid, because it's got these nice little ribs on it, and I am going to cut out 2 little round holes, which I will then put one on the inside and one on the outside. And when I put the silicone caulking in it and mash them together, it's gonna make a sandwich of 3 layers of plastic with silicone caulking in between to keep the water from coming out. So I'm gonna do this off camera so I don't accidentally kill myself.
A few moments later.
All right, so they're not the prettiest things in the world, but now I've got 2 little plugs that are the same size as the hole. So I'll put one in, put that through the bucket, and then put the other side on and have the caulking in between. So hopefully that will keep it good and sealed. So I guess our next step here is to see if I can get this in here, which I recognize that I have an extremely long bit of pipe coming off the bottom here. I'm probably gonna have to trim, but that's all right because I have a use for that bit of pipe. Okay, so I gotta take about that much off. All right, let's break out the hacksaw. All right, so I've got this cut down to almost the exact length I need to get it in the bucket, but I still need a little bit of give to it here. So I'm actually going to put a little bit of a curve. I want it coming down out of the bottom of the spout, but then I'm gonna need an upturn right at the end to wiggle it in. That should work. Come on, you can do it. Oh, there we go. Success. Okay, a little more work on this. Come on. All right. That should go the right way. All right. So now that we've got that in there, that is the first number one most important part. As you can see, my inlet's gonna come right out of the top here. I'll put the little junction thing on that. But our copper coil's flopping around in here. That's no bueno. So, in order to honor the pure jank that is my channel and the way we do things, zip ties. And bright green ones so you can't miss them. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a couple of pilot holes in here, loosely put a zip tie on it, and then I'll put a couple on the other side and I'll try to get it balanced out. All right, so at the risk of seeming lazy, I only put one zip tie on each side, but as you can see, it's holding it in the center and it's holding it off the bottom of the bucket. And if my eyeball doesn't deceive me, it's relatively level. This side might come up a little bit, but that should be pretty good to go. All right, so the last things that I can think of that I need to do are putting my little homemade gasket things on here, which I do have my other one in here already. I had to take it out and put that on because I'd forgotten about it. And then I've got to get my sacrificial bucket because the condenser bucket that comes with Vevor kit has parts that you need. So we're gonna put one plug in somewhere, maybe over here, which is gonna be the water in from the pump. And then we'll put one up here near the rim, which is gonna be the water out. And I've got to get the fitting that goes on the end of this. So that'll come apart, it'll slide down. I'll use my flaring tool to flare the end, and then everything should rock together and we should be good to go. All right, so if you can see, I've got my little thing here put on with some silicone. It's about as pretty as a war wound. I'm probably gonna put a little more around the outside there just in case. The inside's just as ugly, but it is in there and it's suspended by zip ties. Now, as I was saying, you get a sacrificial bucket and you got to take at least the 2 valves out of the side, which I'm still working on. And off the top, you need this, which is held on by the flare. So I'm going to have to crimp or cut that off and then transfer this onto that and then do the flare. So let me see if I can get this off without having to, yeah, probably not. Yeah, that's just gonna deform. All right, so let me get my hacksaw where to put that at and cut the end off of this. Okay, turned out to be a little difficult to freehand cut the pipe with the hacksaw, so I just used my grippies and mashed the hell out of the end of it until I could get the end off. So, ooh, I still gotta get this other one out here. There you go. All right. Got that out. Remember, don't lose your back on there. And we'll drill those at some point. But right now, I'm going to work on getting this flare done. Thanks to some judicious use of a Dremel and a cutoff wheel, we'll put this on now. Yay! And then we will... Oh. So there we are. We got our flare on. All right, got a little Teflon tape there. We're going to get our threads in. Make sure our flare is seated good there. Get our deal going there. All right. I think, yeah, that should have enough grip on it. Oh, right, the side things. I gotta put those in. Now let's grab this and see what size our holes are here. 4.5. That looks like it's right up at a half. Let me grab this third one here. It's part of a kit. We'll check and see if it's got a bigger setting that we can verify with. Yep, looks like 1/2 inch is it. All right, we're gonna want one right about here. And then we're gonna want one up probably about there. All right, that's the pilot holes. Once again, I have forgotten that that's gonna leave little plastic shavings all over the place. I are smart sometimes. All right. Maybe I should have done this before I put the coil in. Well, I guess I'll have to leak test it and see. Okay, that's not exactly the best way to tighten that up. I had to grip it on the inside and twist the outside, but in theory, should be ready to rock. So I'm going to do up some more silicone right around there. I can't really get to the inside. And then I will leave it overnight and we will see how it sets up. And then we'll leak test it.
A lot of boring math later.
All right, everybody, it's time for the final update on this video. I've got my bucket condenser. I leak tested it, filled it up with water, and aside from the fact that I originally forgot to close the valve here, it actually holds water. Yay! So the seals around my nozzles or my barb fittings here are good. I added a couple more zip ties here to hold the bucket in place. I used a little bit of the copper tubing that I had to cut off to get it in there to make myself a little downspout. Not really necessary, but I figured, hey, why not? And more importantly, this hatchet wound looking job of caulk sealing around the main money pipe coming out, it works, it holds water, it's all good. So, I got a little sugar wash percolating in the other room, and this weekend we're gonna hook it up, we're gonna do a cleaning run, so a vinegar and water run to make sure all the copper's cleaned out and good, and then I'm gonna run the sugar wash through it for a sacrifice run, and then I'll be able to make alcohol with, what's this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 coils of copper for it to condense down instead of 3. That's gotta help somewhere, right? All for it. So, big things coming in the moonshining future. At least that's the way it works in my mind. Anyway, I'll try to remember to put a list of all the stuff that I bought to do this upgrade in the area below, so look at that if you're interested in following along.
3 days later.
All right, so we're out here on the deck so that I don't mess up the kitchen for my cleaning run here. So we got half water, half white vinegar in the pot, which I'm going to put the lid on in a minute. That's going to hook up to that hose, which is going straight into that bucket. I've only got a little bit of water down at the bottom on the last couple of coils to keep it from hopefully getting like nuclear hot. And then once that's done, I got a little sugar wash, just a gallon or two that I'm going to throw in there and run through as a sacrifice run. So we are cleaning the condenser coil. Look at that, homemade. Clean and run update. Our pot's reading a little over 200 there. And I don't know if you can see a little heat shimmer coming off the pipes. We got hot all the way down through the top coil, so we're running through there. And we're just starting to get some splashes coming through. So I understand since I got a little bit of water in the bottom of the last couple coils, that's probably not all going to blow out as steam. We'll probably get some condensation out of it, but we'll run the vinegar water through, then we'll run the sacrifice shine through, and that's how we run. All right, so the vinegar run is over. We are just set up for the sacrifice run. I actually only filled the bucket, or filled the Vevor about half up, so I still got some left in there if I wanted to run another bit of it. Things that I've already found. I had a little bit of condensation coming out of the thing here, so I've gotten these two tightened a little more up, so hopefully that seals whatever gap was there. The biggest oopsie that I found is right here. The holes I drilled for my zip ties to hold the coil in place are level with the drain, which means I'm getting little runs of water all around the outside of the bucket. Not on this one, because this one's high enough. It's barely out of the range, but all three of the other ones are leaking little bits of water off of there, so I'm going to have to silicone seal it or something. That, and I underestimated the amount of water that bucket would hold. So I got to pour some more water in my recirculator bucket there for this sacrifice run. But all in all, if that's the only problem, that's not too bad. I can probably silicone seal those and be done with it. All right, well, the sacrifice run is well underway and probably almost done. We're sitting right around 200-ish. Now, fortunately, my little drip that I was having coming from there, apparently putting a little extra tighten on that fitting there has fixed the issue. So the only other thing I got to worry about are these leaks out of my zip tie holes, because I was an idiot and I put them in line with the drain. But other than that, we're looking successful. It's just a minor thing to fix. Do the internet stuff, like, subscribe, and we'll see y'all later.